Hello, this is Ken, and thank you for tuning in to the Model Building and Retirement channel. So join us on this very special 4th of July 250th anniversary special, and we're going to be doing the Tamiya Mustang GT4 build and the full reveal in this video, right after the intro.
Come on in, pull up a chair. Got plastic dreams and chrome everywhere. Model building in retirement, turning memories into scale. Kit reviews and how-to action. Good old Ken will get you through.
Sponsored by Model Makers Workshop. Need parts for your next model project? Model Makers Workshop has you covered with the best aftermarket accessories around. And by Gaahleri, your one-stop shopping for all your airbrush needs. Okay, we're back, and once again, thank you for joining me for my special 4th of July 2026 episode, celebrating our 250th anniversary of our beautiful country. And as you can see, I got the beautiful studio all decorated up in patriotic colors today. It may be 90 degrees outside, but it's only 65 and comfy here in our MBIR studio. So anyways, in this video, it's actually part 2, is back in early May, Mikey from Chester's Models invited me to do a buddy build with the GT4 from Tamiya kit here. He knew I had purchased it, and I believe he invited Craig from Craig's Corners, and I think his Pops is also going to do it. I think a few other guys are going to join in on this as well. So this was back in May when he did the invitation to me, or asked me if I'd be interested in doing it, and I said absolutely. So we agreed to do it. The window for building was June 1st to June 30th. And ever since he contacted me, I was working on the color scheme in my mind, because I know how to get pretty creative when, you know, Mikey's an awesome builder, so is his Pops and Craig. The competition is pretty fierce there, even though it's all in good fun. So I struggled. I had come up with so many different racing liveries and all kinds of different. I wanted to do multicolored for sure, and I wanted to deviate from the box art 100%. But as the time got a little bit closer, I got to realizing, well, hey, the debut is just days away from the 4th of July and our big celebration. And then it came to me, let's just do a patriotic theme. So in this video, we're going to do the complete designing of the paint job and the paint job in detail, designing my own decals, doing the complete build and a big reveal in the end. But it's great because I did not have an actual themed car for the 4th of July celebration, and a lot of the shows actually have a category this year for the 250th anniversary red, white, and blue scheme. So now I've got a build that'll do that. So I made up my own livery for the car. So colors are not going to be according to the actual Ford GT4 racing program. It's my imaginary fantasy build, if you will. So this is what I would call Team USA racing, INSA racing. So let's get right into the build. Okay, so in part 1, we did the unboxing all the way through primer, but in this episode here, I'm trying to develop the paint scheme, knowing now that I want to go with the patriotic scheme. So what I did is I played around with ChatGPT a little bit and came up with some schemes for decals. So what I did right here is I printed them on paper, and I'm just playing around with size. And as you can see in the background, I tried quite a bit of different variations there because I want to do a red, white, and blue paint theme as well. But I'm using clear decals, and with clear decals, anything white on that decal will be clear. So it's going to be the color of your car, your base color, that will actually show through. So if you do a yellow car, everything in white on your decal will turn yellow. If you do a black car, everything's going to turn black. So it's very important in this case that my background be white. So what I'm doing is I'm mocking it up to try to figure out where my white paint needs to be, and then I still want to do some red and blue on the car, so this allows me to decide where I will be able to fit that. So played around with a little bit of the decals here. So let me show you how I actually designed and printed these. Okay, so first of all, after the success of my 60 Falcon graphics from compliments of ChatGPT, I went to ChatGPT once again to design this graphic. And I had fed it the side profile of the car and kind of described the decal, as you can pretty much see here. It just could not get that right at all. So in the end, I just skipped the car and just told it to, fill the space, which is basically 1 by 4.5 inches or something like that. And it finally came up with this graphic, and I had them do a flip version for one for each size. But there was no room for the wheel well or anything. So what I did is I cut these out on paper and held them up against the model, determine exactly where the wheel well would be. And then I turned to my Microsoft Word software because I do not actually have any photo editing software whatsoever. But with Microsoft Word, even though it's a word processing program, you do have the ability to add images and shapes and pictures. And you can manipulate them with the sizes or whatnot. And there's rulers on top and the side, so it makes resizing things pretty easy. Anyway, so what I did is I added a circle to my graphic, and that is 1.25 inch diameter, same diameter as the rear wheel well of the car. So I kind of placed that to where it looked good. I did a test print, cut that out, looked good on the car, so I did it on the opposite side as well. And then once I was fully satisfied, I arranged them on the sheet so that I can have a duplicate of 3 in case I screw up. So this gives me 3 opportunities to get the decals right. I also added a hood graphic for the number 250, and the USA will go on the roof. So on the Falcon, I did the same thing, and luckily the very first try worked, but it's nice to have some spares. So what I'm going to do is I got to let this all cure out for a while, and then I'm going to add a couple layers of clear coat. I'm going to use 2K clear enamel from MCW Paint, and I will show you that when I get to it. I'm going to let this dry for a day or two. So next off, it's putting the base color down for the car. So I mixed up about 10 milliliters of paint, and I cut that with about 20% of their thinner. And in that mixture of the 20% thinner, I probably put about 10 drops of the retarder thinner into, just to slow down the dry time a little bit and let that paint kind of just flow out or smooth out a little bit. So I'm at the booth using the Seeker airbrush, 0.3 millimeter needle and nozzle combination, and 25 psi pressure. And I start out just giving it a very light coating and making sure all my little nooks and crannies get coverage, because it's very important to get that paint pushed in there. If you're going super wet and you try to get it in nooks and crannies, you're just going to get big old ugly puddles going on there.
Well, I rolled into my workshop about 9:15. Got a fresh new model sitting and a paint scheme on my mind. Got my compressor humming like an old freight train at night. When that airbrush starts a singing, everything just feels right. Airbrush blues floating through the room, misty clouds of color chasing away the gloom. Airbrush blues, smooth as Tennessee wine. One gentle pull of the trigger and that model starts to shine. Mixed a little candy red with a touch of pearl white. Watch that old Mustang body come alive beneath the light. Every coat gets deeper, every pass gets clean, trying to build perfection from a plastic dream. Airbrush blues floating through the room, misty clouds of color chasing away the gloom. Airbrush blues, smooth as Tennessee wine. One gentle pull of the trigger and that model starts to shine. touch of pearl white. Watch that old Mustang body come alive beneath the lights. Every coat gets deeper, every pass gets clean. Trying to build perfection from a plastic dream. Airbrush blues floating through the room, misty clouds of color chasing away the gloom. Airbrush blues, smooth as Tennessee wine. One gentle pull of the trigger and that model starts to shine.
Then after that second coat, I waited about 15 minutes and applied a third coat, a medium to wet. And what I mean by medium to wet is it's not full throttle, I'm not hosing it on, but I am putting it on wet enough that when you look at the reflection in the lights as I'm spraying, it will look glossy and wet. Okay, so the pearl paint job came out really nice. So it's not a real super bright white, it's more of a off-white pearl. But I think it's going to look great with those because everything that you see that's white on this decal will be the color of the car. So that ought to look pretty good. So I'm going to put this in the dehydrator overnight, and then tomorrow I can mask off for my second color. So we'll be back. Okay, so now I'm masking off to do my red paint up front here. So I got some fine line tape there on the hood because I need to have that area white at the top of the hood so that I can put my number 250 down. That's in red, white, and blue colors. So I put some fine line down, and then I'm just using some Tamiya tape to just fill the rest of it. Okay, so next I'm taking the front fender there and put another piece of fine line there, and this is just in front of my graphic, so I know my graphic is going to lay down on the white paint. So just in front of the graphic I'm masking off, so all this area from the tape forward will be red. Okay, so I got the front end all masked off now very carefully. Just use frog tape on the rest of it. Tamiya tape where it was critical. All right, so what I'm gonna use is I'm gonna use Kaleidos number K303 metallic racing red on the front of that, and on the back, which I'm not ready to do right now, is going to be K311 Rally Spirit blue, which is like a pearlized blue, so I think that'll be pretty. So I'm going to shake this up real good. I'm going to reduce this by 20% or 10% like I normally do, and I'll meet you at the booth. Okay, so I'm at the booth and I'm using my Mobius 3.0 needle and nozzle combination. And I'm first start off with a nice little mist coat just in all the nooks and crannies, the bottom of the fender wells, all the edges and stuff, areas where it's hard to get the paint to. And after I get good coverage in there, I'm going to increase to like a medium wet coat at 25 psi pressure, pulling back a little bit on my distance there. And I'm going to go at least 2 to 3 coats of red. So I'll speed this up a little bit, but I'll show you exactly what we did there. Okay, so now we're unmasking here. Okay, let's hope we don't have any bleed through. Okay, that went pretty well. Okay. Not my best work, but not my worst work. Okay, I'm going to let that cure up before I do anything else. Okay, so while I'm waiting for that red to cure up, the decals have dried sufficiently, so I'm giving these 2 coats of clear coat. And usually I use MCW enamel 2K clear, which I did. But I also did an experiment and tried 2 coats of the Kaleido clear varnish, and I found that worked just as well. So you do not have to use the MCW. I wanted to test that out and make sure, so it went real well. So using the 0.3 millimeter needle and nozzle, about 18 to 20 psi pressure, and just giving it 2 nice light little wet coats of clear. Okay, so now I'm going to mask off the back of the car here. Well, I've already masked it off. So I'm going to be painting the blue, and this is Kaleido K311 Rally Spirit Blue Metallic. And it was, I had to be very careful where the decal goes, it stays white. So I had to get a little tricky here to find out where I can actually fit that. So there we go. All right, so we are off to the booth once again, and I am going to spray the spoiler and roll cage with the blue as well. Okay, so spraying the blue exactly like I did the white and exactly like I did the red. So about 25 psi pressure, 0.3 needle nozzle combination, and whatever coats it takes to get good coverage, starting with 1 light dust coat, and I believe I went 2 medium wet coats.
Scheme on my mind. Got my compressor humming like an old freight train at night. When that airbrush starts a singing, everything just feels right. Airbrush blues floating through the room, misty clouds of color chasing away the gloom. Airbrush blues, smooth as Tennessee wine. One gentle pull of the trigger and that model starts to shine. Mixed a little candy red with a touch of pearl white. Watch that old Mustang body come alive beneath the light. Every coat gets deeper, every pass gets clean, trying to build perfection from a plastic dream. Airbrush blues floating through the room, misty clouds of color chasing away the gloom. Airbrush blues, smooth as Tennessee wine. One gentle pull of the trigger, and then the model starts to shine.
Okay, so we're unmasking the blue now. Still tacky. right, so there's your red, white, and blue paint scheme, and then the decal looks something like that. So I'm going to put this in a dehydrator and let that cure overnight so I can get my decals on perhaps tomorrow. We'll be back. Okay, so it is time to start laying out some decals. And these are clear decals, so it's the first time using this sheet. I put clear coat on them, and that's already cured up. Now, what you do need to do is, even though they're water slide decals, you need to trim around your design because if you put this in water, the whole thing comes with it. So you need to cut it out. So I'm going to start out with something easier. I'll start out with the roof here. The roof is going to get the USA. So I'm just going to cut just beyond the graphic a little bit. Okay, so I got some water here. I'm going to get a couple Q-tips standing by, toothpick, some microsol and microset if needed, and a brush in case I need to apply that stuff. Okay, we're going to try the very first one. So I put it in water. I'm immediately going to take it out of the water and start testing it. Okay, it's not moving yet, so let that set for a little bit longer. Okay, she's getting ready to slide, so I'm going to wet down my roof. Okay, now I need to manipulate this a little bit, so I'm going to keep it wet. And I need to spin it a little bit here. So I'm just kind of taking my wet little brush and kind of pushing it from the edge. Okay, once you get it into place, I'm just going to take a Q-tip in the center and just kind of spin it out. Just kind of pushing out water and air. Now that one was relatively easy, but that's why I wanted to start out with that, is to get a feel for the decal a little bit. Because the side profile is going to be the trickiest. You know, there is profiles to deal with there. But that looks pretty good. So the next one will be the number 250. There we go. She's coming along. Looking quite American, huh? Okay, so now we're going to go for the a little bit more challenging ones here. Okay, so now we go for the more challenging one. But the only thing I can really do is line it up against my wheel well here. Okay, so now I got to start working that in. Got it pretty close on the wheel well there. Okay, so I tested the decal, and it does hold up to microsol. It's just once you got it on there, it's very fragile and melding, so like it's supposed to. So you don't want to manipulate it too much. But I'm painting some right where this door handle is, right there. I've already painted some up here. Because there's a piece that goes in there. So all in all, I'm pretty happy with that look. So that's a clear decal in full color, but only works on a white backdrop. I'll show you what happens if you try to use a clear decal elsewhere. Let me get one ready. So let me show you what happens when you use a clear decal on color. So you can clearly see you got black and white going on here, but without a white background, your checkerboard, your black does show up. You know, the darker the color, the worse that gets. But anything white is now the background color of what you're using. So anyways, I just want to demonstrate that. All right, so I'm just going to get some more decals on here and we'll be back. Okay, so after I got my homemade decals on there, I also used some of the kit decals to finish it out a little bit. Some of the Ford Performance decals and Ford emblems and whatnot, GT4. So everything has been allowed to dry overnight. So as you can see, the paint, if you put the colors on there medium wet, they kind of come up with a satin sheen. If you want gloss and you lay it on a lot wetter, it will come up glossy. But I'm never concerned about that because I'm going to clear coat over it, and that's exactly what we're going to do now. So my plan is I'm going to get 3 coats of clear on there. I'm going to let it cure. I'm going to sand it all down and go 3 more coats again, and this is all using the Kaleido Colorworks gloss varnish that you see here. And I'm going to dilute that down about 10% with their thinner, and in that 10% dilution there'll be about 10 drops of the retarder thinner as well. Okay, so we're back at the booth. I'm using my Mobius 3.0, about 25 psi pressure. And as I said, I'm going to go ahead and give that 3 medium wet coats. So I'm going to speed this up and I'll just show you in fast forward with some music.
Well, come on in, pull up a chair. Got plastic dreams and chrome everywhere. Got a box on the bench and glue on my hands, building little hot rods, making big time plans. From a 69 Chevelle to a Galaxy ride, got the hobby fire burning deep inside. Model building in retirement, turning memories into scale. How the tips and kit reviews, good old Ken will get you through. Yeah, we're building, model building in retirement. Let's hit the work.
Okay, so this clear has been allowed to cure up for at least 24 hours. And I really want to bury those decals in the clear. And actually mine didn't come out too bad, but the kit decals stand out a little bit too. So what I'm going to do is, even though I'm going to put 3 coats of clear on there, I don't have the best finish. I do have some dust in there too, but I am going to sand this down with 3000s grit and get this paint totally flat again. And I'm going to lay on 3 more coats of clear and let that cure, and then I'll go to sand and polish, and that's going to just bury the decals. I don't want to see the edges of decals. So that's what we're going to do here. Just going to wet sand. Okay, then once again, for the final time, we're going to go back to the booth and I'm going to go 3 more medium wet coats of clear, and that'll totally bury these decals and you're not going to be able to see the seams. It'll look like that graphic is painted on the car. So go ahead and speed this up. Okay, so the paint's been allowed to cure for about 48 hours, and after 24 hours, it's okay to start sanding. So I'm going to give the entire car a nice sanding now, starting with 3000s Trizact, and I'm going to go to 8000s, and then I'm going to go to my Scratch X polish, and then finally my Meguiar's Ultimate polish with gloss enhancer. And I'll show you what that looks like right after everything's been polished up. Okay, so we got everything buffed and polished out now, and I'll tell you what, she is really gleaming. Not bad for homemade decal, and it is now buried in that clear, so it looks like it's been painted on that car. Gloss looks really good. I would have used STS decals, but they're out about 12 weeks lead time, and I just don't plan that far ahead, so I had to learn how to perfect my own, and I'm glad I did, because now I got it all figured out. Okay, very good. So we are ready to move on to the rest of the build. So this kit is very well thought out. They give you maskings for your windows, because the outer edges and that should be blackened. And instead of you having to mask it on your own, they give you these nice little masking templates that are pre-cut. You just peel them off and stick them on carefully. And on the other side, the outside of the glass, you'll have to tape off so you don't get any overspray on it. But you know, here's the back window, the front windshield. So it's got a mask on the outside that's gonna get black onto the cowling area. And then here you'll just put your own masking tape. And then on the inside, you got two little pieces here, which is gonna allow you to blacken up your outside edges here. So pretty cool, pretty cool. I'm gonna get this all finished installed. And originally I wasn't going to paint any of the black stuff because it really looks pretty nice, but I think I'm going to go ahead and hit it with the Tamiya X18 semi-gloss black per the instructions. So that's what the glass is going to get too, painted from the inside. So I'm going to get that all masked off and we'll be back. Okay, so I got all my glass masked, and now I collected up some other parts that are going to get the semi-gloss black from Tamiya. And as long as I'm going to go to the booth, I might as well do a little marathon spray out there. So I'll be doing some other parts too in multiple colors. And all I do is I just flush my brush with some warm water until it blows clean. And then I switch my color, and I just keep doing that until I'm done. And then I break my gun apart for my deep clean. So I'm going to go ahead and speed this up, and we'll meet you at the booth. Okay, so I've allowed the paint to tack up here, so time to unmask. So first I'll pull off the outside layer. Okay, you can see a nice crisp masking on the outside, or, you know, as it looks through the glass. All right, so now I'm gonna take a toothpick and kind of peel up this masking a little bit so I can get it with my tweezers. I think it's great that they gave you this masking. I couldn't have done that good of a job myself. Okay, outstanding. I did a beautiful job. Okay, I'm gonna get the rest of this off camera. I also did the wheels. I hand painted the white into the centers, and then I'll still be using some panel liner and a gray color for my lug nuts. Just working on some of the little details here before we go to final assembly. So detailing out the dashboard a little bit. They got some decals that go on the instrument panel there. Actually, they didn't give you anything for the gauges themselves up there. So I just used a little fusion firm around the gauge pod and painted a little silver in there. And then I just took a little black marker and tried to paint in like a needle and numbers. And no detail there, just so it looks like there's something in there. Okay, so per the instructions, this here requires that you would paint that with a silver chrome paint. So I'm assuming it's insulation from the transmission engine compartment to the floorboard. I'm going to put some bare metal foil on that. I think it'll look a little bit more realistic. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So I'm just going to piece it together. I'll get the other side done and then, you know, figure out what I need to finish the tunnel there, because you're going to have the dry shaft coming through and stuff. So, you know, if you have a seam or whatever, it's really not going to be very noticeable. All right, so I'll be back after I get that all done. I got the transmission tunnel all foiled and also the fuel cell. So I'm beginning assembly at this point. Okay, I made a little blunder here. The disc brakes should be aiming the back of the car instead of the front, which causes an alignment issue. The wheel is sitting too far back in the wheel well. I knew that didn't look right. It took me a few minutes to realize it, so these two pictures are wrong. I did since correct it. Okay, so we are on the final part, and that is getting this rear spoiler attached. So I'm using a little bit of UV resin glue. Carefully get these two little prongs into the base. And finally, we're going to hit it with the light. It's supposed to be 5-second glue, but yeah, I'm hitting it for a lot longer than I need to. All right, it is on. All right, let's get to the big reveal, folks. Here it goes. And here we are for the big reveal of the Tamiya Mustang GT4 buddy build with Mikey at Chester's Models. It came out absolutely beautiful. Let's take a look at her on the spin table. And I gotta tell you, this kit was such a pleasure to build. It was a nice surprise. I had heard the Tamiya kits, I've heard the Tamiya kits are beautiful builds. The fit and finish of everything is just absolutely perfect. I mean, you don't even have to paint this model if you don't want to. That's how nice it comes. You know, even on its curbside. Now, curbside kind of would make you think it's an easy kit to build. And not that it's very difficult, but there is quite a bit of detail involved with it. So you want to make sure that you check out your instructions and follow the sequence of things. And a lot of little detailed pieces. But my goodness, it comes out so beautiful. I certainly would build a lot more Tamiya kits, but unfortunately they just don't have the subject matter that I prefer. You know, old-time muscle cars or whatnot. The Mustang was the most attractive one that I saw in their lineup, but they got a lot of Japanese cars and European cars. But if you really want a clean build with a lot of detail, go for the Tamiya kits, folks. Okay, I got to tell you, that was a lot of fun building this kit. The Tamiya quality is like, it surpasses anything I've built to date. I just loved it. Even though they call it a curbside kit, just because there's no engine, there's a lot of detail and a lot of little fine little parts to handle. So I still say it takes a little bit of skill to put together, but the fit and finish of everything is unheard of. I only wish that Tamiya would do more releases to the stuff that I'm interested in, like old school muscle car or American racing and stuff. The Mustang was as close as I can come to at this point. So, but what a fun, beautiful build. Mikey, I really appreciate you inviting me along to do the buddy build, and I can't wait to see what you and Pops and everybody else is going to do with your versions of it. Coming off my Falcon Menace project, I knew that I really had something special that I had to do here. So this one was a lot easier, nothing really custom. Pretty much it's all box, straight box build, other than my homemade decals and paint job. So Anyways, I really appreciate you guys watching, and just a reminder that the first Friday of every month I do my live stream where I have a special guest and we talk about models, and that builder will feature his builds. So my next one is July 3rd, and I got Jody Doyle. It will be my guest, and he's got some incredible builds. So join me at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, Friday, July 3rd, and we'll see you there. Thanks.